Hello, thanks for joining for the CURCE Funding Workshop. I'm Casey Kohler, Assistant Director for CURCE. At any point, please don't hesitate to reach out to the CURCE team at ugr@albany.edu. So, a special note to make sure that you are all aware before we get started. All of the funding opportunities for the spring semester are due on Sunday, March 5th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. There is no exception to this deadline, including the faculty recommendations or support. If they are late, we are unable to extend the deadline and include those submissions within the review processes. First, we have our Spring 2023 CURCE funding. These awards have been generously donated by several University at Albany alumni. We are very thankful for them contributing these financial awards to UAlbany students for many years. This funding is to provide direct support to students for their research expenses or to utilize for credit-bearing research in future semesters. So if you are taking a research-based class like ABio 399, you can utilize funding if you're a recipient to register for ABio 499 in the next semester. We also want to highlight that prior recipients are eligible to apply again. There is no restriction on the number of times you can receive these awards. So if you're a sophomore and you got it last semester, you can definitely apply again this semester. We do want to highlight the awards range from $500 to $1,000, and we do not distribute anything over the $1,000 mark on these awards. Your eligibility requirements for these awards are that you must be currently and actively engaged in the research at the time of application. So that means in the spring 2023 semester. If you have been on the project earlier than that, or you plan to continue, that's great, but we are worried about you being involved right now at the time of application. You also have to be a full-time student. That means you're taking at least 12 credits in the spring semester. The research project has to be mentored by a UAlbany faculty member, an affiliated researcher, adjunct faculty, PhD student, or graduate student. If you are uncertain if your research mentor meets these criteria, please email us at ugr@albany.edu. These awards are open to all academic majors in every school or college at the University at Albany, and it is open to all class years at the undergraduate level. Application requirements. There are two parts to this application process. Part one is for students. You have to submit a detailed summary of your role and responsibilities, a research abstract, a budget summary and expense listing, and ensure that you are presenting at the inaugural UAlbany Showcase Day on April 27, 2023. This is critically important because the application window may close before the Showcase Day submissions close. So make sure that as soon as you submit your application for funding, you then turn around and submit your information to present at Showcase Day. Failure to do so could restrict your ability to receive funding this semester. For the second part of the application, your faculty member must confirm that you are working on the project. They will also be able to provide additional comments and clarify on the roles and responsibilities you've submitted. They have to provide support on your submission. This is a very important piece of the application process for the review committee, and that is because without the faculty mentorship and guidance, we are uncertain of the clarity of your work. So their active participation in this process is a necessity. Their portion of the application will be sent to them as an automatic email as soon as you submit your submissions, and it will be due at the same time as all applications. So they will have to submit their portion by 11:59 p.m. on March 5th, 2023. A summary of your role and responsibilities. This has to be detailed. We do not want to see one or two sentences. You should have this in a list format, so bullet points or 1, 2, 3, numerically ordered, or a full paragraph. It should include specific tasks you've done, tasks that you're the primary, items you've completed to advance the project, and anything specific you want the review committee to know. This is weighed heavily by the review committee on selection for award recipients. Knowing exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it is helpful to them to know what your level of engagement in the project is. In the past, students have simply written in this text box that they are the primary author because it's their honors thesis. That doesn't provide a great amount of detail, and it has resulted in deducted points from your total. Your research abstract. This is a brief 150 to 250 word paragraph that provides a concise summary of your project. It needs to be the essence of the project. It shouldn't be everything in the kitchen sink. Limit yourself, be concise. Things to think about while you're writing your abstract. There might be a standard structure based on the type of research you're doing. You should always be working with your faculty mentor on crafting your abstract and access support services like the UAlbany Writing Center to strengthen your abstract. If you need additional support, check out the abstract video that CURCE has created and posted on our YouTube channel. For your budget summary, this is a written summary of the expenses you are going to be adding into the expense listing. If you are asking for materials, we ask that you please highlight why these are needed and why they are not currently available to you. If you're attending a conference and presenting, or just traveling to participate in a conference with your research team, what are your travel needs? Are you driving? Are you taking a train, a bus, an airplane? Where are you going? Specific city and location will be helpful. Why are you attending this specific conference? Is it because you're accepted to present? Is it a networking opportunity? Is it an undergraduate only conference? This will also clarify for our review committee why it is important that you participate in that conference. For fall 2024 tuition, and this is for students who will be enrolled as an undergraduate student only, what research class do you plan to take in the fall semester where you could utilize the tuition? If you are graduating in May 2023, this funding award cannot be applied to graduate level coursework. If that is the case and you receive funding, but you are returning to UAlbany as a graduate student, your award will be distributed as a check. Expense listing information. You have to enter at least one specific expense with a dollar amount. Each expense should be on a new line, and it'll allow you to add additional lines on the application. It is okay if you use estimates, but please be as close as possible to what the expenses are. We know that with inflation, costs of items, materials, travel are fluctuating frequently. So just be mindful that we will check if it is outlandish or even if you are under budgeting. We do advise that students limit themselves to not requesting over $1,000. If your application asks for something over that, the review committee does look at that as poor planning, or that they are concerned how you will facilitate the remaining of the funds if you are not awarded $1,000. That has been commented in the past, and we want to make sure students have access to as much as possible while not overextending our limited budget for these awards. Remember that you're responsible for the expenses. CURCE does not make any purchases or travel arrangements for students. Expenses must be relevant to your research project and are for you only. No funds are distributed directly to a faculty member or research team, so be mindful that if the funds need to be used for general use for the entire lab, you're responsible for working on that with your research mentor. Next up is the Situation Prize for Research, Community Cause and Advocacy. This award was launched by Damien Bazzadona, an alumni of the University of Albany School of Business. It provides 9 awards of $500 for students to make progress on community action projects. This is where you will utilize your research skills and your passions to outline how you can move the needle forward on an issue within your community or the campus community. To be eligible, you have to be enrolled in the spring 2023 semester. It is open to any major and any class year, as long as you are taking at least 6 credits this semester. You have to submit a 3-page proposal that addresses the following items. Define the problem or issue, articulate why it matters, research how this is addressed elsewhere. This is where you can include research on data, facts from reputable sources, peer-reviewed sources, or similar actions on issues in the national or local area. Identify different actionable interventions. Research how that worked, how it could be applied in your situation or your community to make a concerted change. You do have to include a works cited, and so please be aware that that should include at least one citation per page of the 3 pages. You should have at least 3 sources, and it should be included on a structured works cited page. That is not included in the 3-page minimum for this application. You also have to provide a resume and a 10-second video tagline for why your proposal is relevant and actionable. Lastly, we have the Sorrell Chesin Research Award. In order to be eligible, you have to be a full-time junior or senior, so that's taking 12 credits at the University of Albany in the spring semester. You have to also be actively working on the project this semester. You have to be working with a University of Albany faculty member or researcher, or one that is affiliated with our institution. And the research must be in the life sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, atmospheric science, just to name a few of areas that have been funded by this award in the past. Your requirements are a research abstract, a faculty recommendation, a resume, and you must respond to 2 open-ended question prompts. The first being, describe your personal goals and objectives for being involved in research, and how does your research contribute to your field of study or beyond? Similar to the CURCE funding for the spring semester, your faculty member will receive an automatic email to complete their part of the process. It is required that the faculty recommendation be received in order for your application to be reviewed. So please be mindful of that. When in doubt, reach out. If you would like, you can scan the QR code to make an appointment with me to walk through your application materials for any and all of these awards. If you have a general question, please don't hesitate to reach out to the CURCE team at ugr@albany.edu.